Welcome to Narrations, where we bring timeless movies to life through immersive storytelling. Each day, we retell a cinematic classic, scene by scene, so you can relive the emotions, the laughter, the heartbreak, and the magic that made these films unforgettable. Today's story takes us on a bumpy, hilarious, and unexpectedly heartfelt journey, one that begins with frustration and ends with friendship. So settle in as we hit the road for a Thanksgiving tale like no other. This is Planes, Trains and Automobiles, 1987. The film opens on a bustling November afternoon in New York City, the kind of crisp, pre-holiday chaos where coats flap in the wind and every street corner smells like roasted chestnuts and taxi exhaust. And right in the middle of this organized madness stands Neil Page, a man who looks like he's always 5 minutes late, even when he's on time. Neil is a marketing executive, sharp suit, sharp temper, sharp everything, except his luck. He's staring at a presentation boardroom table that refuses to end, while his boss studies two identical poster designs like they're ancient scripture. Neil's eyes flick nervously to his watch. The seconds tick away like hammer blows. Thanksgiving dinner is waiting back in Chicago. His wife and kids are counting the hours, and he's still stuck in this meeting that refuses to die. Finally, mercifully, the boss says, "We'll reconvene after the holidays." Neil's sigh could fill the whole building. He grabs his briefcase, already halfway to the elevator in his mind. Cut to the streets, a blur of coats, horns, and people with one thing on their mind: get home. Neil sprints for a cab, dodging pedestrians, his polished shoes slapping the pavement. He spots an empty taxi across the street. Hope. But so does another man, a stranger with a grin and a sense of competition. They lock eyes like duelists. A mad dash ensues. Bags fly, elbows collide. Neil dives, and loses. The stranger slips into the cab with a smirk. The door slams, tires squeal, and the cab vanishes. Neil's disbelief hangs in the cold air. That man, he'll later discover, is Del Griffith, a name he'll never forget. By the time Neil makes it to LaGuardia, he's sweating and late. The departure board is flashing delays like Christmas lights. A snowstorm's brewing over Chicago. He queues up, praying for mercy, muttering under his breath about travel gods and marketing deadlines. But travel gods, as we'll soon see, don't take requests. At the gate, Neil collapses into his seat, the kind of exhausted calm that only travelers understand. But when boarding begins, fate decides to have a little fun. He's bumped a coach. No upgrade, no comfort. Just him and the masses. And as he squeezes into his row, who's sitting next to him but the same man from the cab incident, Del Griffith, the human roadblock, with a laugh that fills the cabin before he even speaks. Del's everything Neil isn't: chatty, warm, rumpled, the kind of guy who'd sell you shower curtain rings and call it a friendship. And that's exactly what he does for a living: shower curtain ring salesman, traveling city to city with endless stories and the world's biggest heart. Neil's polite smile is doing overtime. He just wants peace, maybe a drink, maybe 5 minutes of silence. Del, though, has other plans. He's got jokes, weather updates, and his own brand of small talk that fills every corner of the cabin. It's funny, the movie doesn't need explosions or twists. It thrives on the clash of personalities. Neil, the uptight planner, versus Del, the unstoppable optimist. Like oil and water, trapped at 30,000 feet. As the plane takes off, Neil leans back, eyes closed, silently begging the storm to hold off long enough for him to land in Chicago and have that turkey dinner with his family. But nature laughs last. Halfway through the flight, the captain's voice crackles. "Due to the snowstorm over O'Hare, we're being diverted to Wichita." You can almost see Neil's soul leave his body. Del, ever cheerful, says, "At least it's warmer than Buffalo," and chuckles. Neil doesn't even blink. They land in Wichita, chaos spilling through the terminal like spilled coffee. Every traveler is scrambling for rooms, buses, trains, anything. Neil tries to stay composed, but luck slaps him again. His credit cards declined at the hotel counter. Del, somehow, has a reservation. And in one of life's cruel jokes, he offers to share his room. 2 beds. 1 night. How bad could it be? Cut to their motel, the kind of place where the wallpaper curls at the edges and the heater sounds like a dying tractor. Dell's already unpacking, humming, turning the room into a cozy campsite. Neil, deadpan, is wondering what sins in a past life led him here. Then comes the bed scene, one of comedy's finest moments. They wake in the morning, tangled in blankets, sharing a single pillow, arms wrapped in the world's most awkward embrace. Neil's sleepy murmur. "Why are you holding my hand?" Dell. "Where's your other hand?" Neil. "Between 2 pillows." Dell, horrified, pause, then yells. "Those aren't pillows!" They leap out of bed like it's on fire, faces red, muttering about football and beer, desperate to reclaim their dignity. It's pure John Hughes magic, humor drawn not from gags, but from humanity. Beneath the laughs, you sense the start of something, 2 lonely souls orbiting the same chaotic holiday sky. By breakfast, they're a reluctant team. Neil still thinks of Dell as a talkative nuisance. Dell sees Neil as an uptight snob who just needs to lighten up. But they both want one thing: to get home. And so begins a journey that'll take them across planes, trains, and automobiles, and straight into each other's lives in ways neither expects. The snow outside thickens, and somewhere on a Kansas highway, 2 strangers are about to start the most unexpected friendship of their lives. The morning sun crawls over Wichita, lighting up the motel parking lot like a scene from an old postcard, except for Neil and Dell, who look like survivors of a comedy battlefield. Neil's neatly pressed shirt is gone. His tie's twisted. Dell's cheerfulness, though, remains indestructible, fueled by coffee and blind optimism. At breakfast, Dell's chatting up everyone in sight: the waitress, the busboy, the old couple at the next table, while Neil sits tight-lipped, sipping burnt coffee and wondering what karmic wheel spun him into this circus. He's convinced nothing else can go wrong. But that's the thing about road trips: the moment you say it, the universe takes it as a dare. Their first hope is a bus. Dell's got connections, or so he claims. They buy tickets, settle in, and off they go, a metal tube full of strangers and chaos, rumbling through the Midwest. Neil, trapped by a kid kicking the back of his seat, tries to meditate himself out of existence. Dell, meanwhile, joins in a sing-along, belting 3 coins in the fountain, like it's Broadway night. By the time they reach Jefferson City, Neil's patience has melted faster than snow on asphalt. They part ways, temporarily. "You go your way, I'll go mine," Neil insists, clutching his dignity like a boarding pass to freedom. But life has other ideas. Neil tries to rent a car, finally, independence. But when he trudges out into the snow-covered parking lot, he finds an empty space where his car should be. It's gone. Vanished. His scream echoes across the icy wasteland like a tragic opera note. Cut to Neil stomping back through the airport in slow motion, covered in slush, every step squelching louder than his rage. He faces the rental clerk, calm, smiling, unhelpful, and delivers one of cinema's most legendary tirades. 20 words. 1 bleep per second. It's profanity poetry. The clerk, unbothered, smiles sweetly and says, "You're screwed." And just when Neil thinks it can't get worse, it starts to snow again. He's stranded on the highway, walking in his overcoat, his shoes soaked, face twisted into a permanent grimace. And then, headlights approach. A honk. A van slows down. And who's driving? Of course, Del Griffith. He's back, grinning, like a guardian angel made of bad timing. "Need a lift, friend?" he says. Neil wants to scream. Instead, he sighs, gets in, and the universe begins laughing again. The next leg of the journey unfolds in Dell's latest questionable rental, a burnt orange Chrysler that looks like it's been through several wars. The windshield's dirty, the seatbelt sticks, and the radio only plays polka. But Dell's humming happily, one hand on the wheel, one arm resting on the open window. He's telling stories about his life on the road, the people he's met, the places he's slept. Neil, for the first time, actually listens. Somewhere between eye rolls and sighs, he begins to see the charm beneath Dell's chaos. A man trying to bring joy to a life full of lonely miles. Night falls. Snow thickens. The highway disappears under white sheets of wind and ice. They pull off near a tiny roadside motel, hoping for rest. But even here, trouble finds them. Their credit cards are useless, Neil's burned out, Dell's maxed out. Dell, ever resourceful, sells his sample shower curtain rings as earrings to locals at a diner to make quick cash. Neil's disbelief turns to reluctant admiration. The guy may be annoying, but he's a survivor. They hit the road again, spirits high but luck running thin. The heater dies, then the wipers fail. Dell's cheerful confidence gives way to nerves as he takes a wrong turn, straight onto a divided highway. Headlights approach. Dell, they're honking at us! Neil yells. Dell laughs. They're just being nice. The car swerves, lights flash, and suddenly chaos. They spin, scream, and somehow survive. The car ends up facing the wrong way, smoke curling from the hood. For a second, silence. Then laughter. Real, pure laughter. The kind that breaks tension and says, "We're still alive." It's the first true connection between them, two opposites, united by disaster. But fate isn't done. When they finally pull into a motel, exhausted and soot-stained, Dell tries to warm the car using his cigarette lighter. A spark flies. A puff of flame. Then, whoosh! The whole car ignites in a glorious orange blaze. The two men watch in stunned silence as their only transportation burns to the ground, the flames lighting up their disbelieving faces. Dell mutters, "Well, the radio still works." Neil stares at him, torn between murder and laughter. He chooses laughter. Because what else can you do when everything's already gone wrong? By the next morning, the car is a smoldering wreck, the windshield cracked, the seats melted. But they drive it anyway, top down, fumes trailing, wind freezing their faces, a pair of comedic gladiators who refuse to quit. Neil's too tired to be angry, Dell's too kind to give up. They're partners now, bound by shared suffering and stubborn hope. As they limp toward Chicago, you start to sense the shift, the wall between them thinning. Neil's sarcasm softens, Dell's chatter quiets. Beneath it all lies a simple truth: both men are lonely in their own ways. Neil misses home but doesn't quite know how to slow down and appreciate it. Dell travels endlessly because he has no one waiting. Two paths that never should have crossed are now intertwined. They finally make it back to a rental office, battered but victorious. Neil's had enough. "This is it," he says. "I'll find my own way." Dell nods, a small, almost sad smile. "Okay, buddy. You take care now." It's awkward but genuine. Two souls, finally respecting each other. As Neil boards the train home, he glances out the window, and sees Dell, alone on the platform, still smiling through the cold. There's something in his eyes. Something that doesn't sit right. Neil frowns. The train starts moving. And in that quiet moment, memories flash. All the stories Dell told about his wife, Marie. How much he missed her. How long he'd been on the road. But something about it never quite added up. The camera lingers on Neil's face, a slow dawning realization forming like a sunrise in his eyes. And just like that, we fade into the emotional heart of the film, one that transforms laughter into something deeply human. As the train rattles down the tracks toward Chicago, Neil Page finally feels the tension ease from his shoulders. After all the detours, disasters, and sleepless nights, home is just a few stops away. He imagines the scene, his wife Susan opening the door, their kids running to him, the smell of Thanksgiving dinner wafting through the house. For the first time in days, he smiles, a real, quiet smile. But then something stirs inside him. It's that image of Dell standing alone on the platform. That smile, brave but tired. The kind you wear when you don't want anyone to see your pain. Neil's thoughts wander back through the chaos of their journey. The endless jokes, the small talk about Marie, the way Dell's eyes softened every time he mentioned her. He'd said she loved Thanksgiving. He'd said she'd set a place for him. But if that were true, why was he spending the holiday in motels and rental cars with strangers? The train slows at the next stop. Neil stares out the window, lost in thought. He sees families reuniting, couples hugging, kids carrying pies wrapped in foil. The sight hits him, and suddenly, the warmth he felt about going home turns into something else. Guilt. Concern. A tug on the heart that won't let go. In a moment of pure instinct, Neil stands up. He grabs his coat and briefcase, and without a word, steps off the train. The cold air greets him again, but this time it feels different, less like punishment, more like purpose. Cut to Neil walking briskly through the streets, his eyes scanning every corner. He knows where to look, the terminal bench, the same place he'd left Delaware. And there he is. Del Griffith. Sitting alone, clutching his trunk like it's the last familiar thing he owns. The flow of people around him moves fast, but Del stays still, lost in his own world. Neil approaches quietly. Del, he says softly. Del looks up, surprised. His trademark smile flickers back into place. Neil! Thought you'd be home by now. Neil sits beside him. Yeah, about that. You said your wife loves Thanksgiving? You going home to her? A long silence. Del's smile falters. He looks down at his hands. I wasn't exactly being straight with you. His voice drops. Marie's been gone, for 8 years now. The words hang heavy in the air, like snowflakes that don't melt. Neil doesn't speak. Del continues softly. I don't have a home. I just keep traveling. You meet folks, make them laugh, sell some shower rings. It keeps you from thinking too much. He forces a weak smile. Guess I just didn't want you to feel sorry for me. Neil's expression changes. The frustration, the anger, the exhaustion of the past few days fade into something simple and human, empathy. He puts a hand on Del's shoulder. Come on, he says quietly. Let's go home. Cut to the Chicago suburbs, late afternoon. Snowflakes drift gently as the camera follows the two men carrying Del's massive trunk up to Neil's house. Inside, Susan waits at the window, her face lighting up as she spots her husband, and then, curiously, the stranger beside him. The door opens, and warmth spills out into the night. Susan runs to Neil, hugging him tight. You made it, she says, tears in her eyes. Neil smiles, looking over her shoulder toward Delaware. Yeah, he replies softly. We made it. Del stands awkwardly in the doorway, hat in hand, humbled by the domestic warmth he hasn't felt in years. Susan, sensing the story behind his eyes, gives him a gentle smile. Welcome, Mr. Griffith. You're just in time for Thanksgiving. The final scene is quiet but powerful. The dining room glows with soft candlelight. The table is full: turkey, cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes, laughter. Neil sits beside his family, glancing across the table at Del, who's laughing with the kids, telling stories in that larger-than-life way only he can. Neil's eyes soften. The chaos, the frustration, all of it led to this moment of grace. There's a brief silence amid the chatter as the camera lingers on Neil's face. You can almost hear his thoughts. How easy it is to judge people when you don't know their story. How sometimes the most annoying person in the world turns out to be the one who teaches you the most about compassion. Then, Del catches his eye and raises his glass. Neil nods back, a smile breaking through. It's a simple exchange, but it says everything. Gratitude. Friendship. Redemption. Cut to a slow pan across the table, the flicker of candles, the warmth of family, the hum of laughter, before fading to the sound of Every Time You Go Away, by Paul Young. The music swells as the camera lingers on Del's face, framed by the soft glow of the home he never had but finally found, even if just for one night. And that's the beauty of planes, trains, and automobiles. Beneath all the slapstick chaos, the burned cars, and snow-drenched shouting matches, lies a film about human connection. About how travel, with all its misfortunes and wrong turns, can sometimes bring you exactly where you need to be. It's about kindness, empathy, and the quiet miracles of Thanksgiving. So, as the credits roll and the music fades, we're left smiling through the tears, just like Neil and Delaware. And that's planes, trains, and automobiles, 1987, a journey that begins with chaos and ends with heart. A story reminding us that sometimes the people who test our patience the most also teach us the most about ourselves. Thanks for listening to Narrations. If this story warmed your heart or made you laugh, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more cinematic retellings that bring the classics to life. And if you haven't already, go watch the full movie. It's a road trip you'll never forget.